Welcome to Calisthenics Kids. We're on lesson number 29 where we're going to be going through dinosaur walks. For today's lesson you're going to want a shoe handy for our movement challenge at the end, but before we get to that we've got to get started with our warm-up. So first movement we're going to do is a monkey, but we're going to imagine we're kicking a can over in front of us. Now this is a movement that we've covered extensively over the last month or so, but if this is the first time you're joining us, let me remind you on how we're going to do this. So one hand's going to come over the top and we're going to land hand, hand, foot, foot. But imagine you're kicking a can over as you bring your foot out. So I'm going to go hand, hand, foot, foot. So you can see how I'm kicking a can over as I come around. Okay, let's try that again. So hand, hand, foot, foot. And I'm just, because of space, I'm going to slide back and I'm going to reverse that motion until I come back. And we'll go over that a little bit more in a second. So hand, hand, foot, foot. Whoa! Balance tested already. And then try and reverse that motion till we come back. Now I want you to have a go at reversing that motion. So we'll take you through it. So hand, hand, foot, foot. And then from here, you're going to take this foot that kicked the can and come round the back and then bring your feet till you're aligned. So hand, hand, foot, foot. Bring that around you and then bring your feet together. Now let's try that from the other side. So hand, hand, foot, foot. So hand, hand, foot, foot. And then bring this leg behind you and then feet together. And kick that can. So as I lean forward, I'm then going to bring this leg behind me and then bring my feet together. So let's do that one more time. And then the foot that kicked the can is then almost becoming like a tail of a dog. So it's going to come behind me and then I'm going to readjust with my feet together. Next thing we're going to do is I want you to stand up, shake it off, and you're going to peel yourself down your spine one bit at a time, almost like you're an elderly person at a supermarket. So peeling yourself down, and then I just want you to keep going and then peel yourself back up, and we're going to try that forwards and then backwards. So peel yourself down. How low down can we get? If you can't get all the way down, that's fine. But then we're just going to peel our way back up. And then can we peel ourselves down behind us? Now this is tricky. If you've got a wall behind you, try and walk down that wall using your hands. So peel yourself down and then peel yourself back up. And try and imagine you're walking down a wall behind you. One more. So peel yourself down. So old person in the supermarket, peel, 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 and then peel yourself back up. And then can we lean backwards? If you've got a wall, imagine you're walking down that wall. And if you look at our lesson on the sissy squat, then maybe you'll be able to peel yourself down, but with a little bit more control. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our bear. Now, this bear has his bum up in the air, and he's going to move very slowly, very gracefully. So, bum up in the air. So, push your bum back to start, hands on the floor, and then all you're going to do is walk opposite hand, opposite leg. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways of making this easier and harder. So this version is quite easy. Bum is up nice and high, and if your back seat and legs feel pretty flexible, this bear doesn't require much effort at all because we're effectively putting our hands on the floor. So that's almost our level 1 bear. Our level 2 bear is when we're going to have our head, our shoulders slightly further forward. So our level 2 bear, we're just leaning forward with it. So if I lean forward with it now, all of a sudden, this bear is going to need stronger arms and stronger shoulders to be able to move. So if I lean forward, that's going to make it that much harder. And if you've got limited space, test that coming backwards as well. So still opposite hand, opposite leg. Now if you want to challenge yourself further, not only are you going to lean forward, so again, pick the level that's appropriate for you, but if you want to make it even harder, then not only are you going to lean forward, but when you're walking, you're only allowed your toes to touch the floor. So heel's not allowed to touch, toe is the only thing that is allowed to touch. So lean forward, only the hands and the toes are allowed to touch. So let me show you what that looks like from the front first and then from the back. So I'm going to lean forward and only my toe is allowed to touch. Now this is difficult. This is really challenging our balance. Try and do this without shoes if you've got the option to. And walking backwards, which is always tougher than walking forwards. And then reset your knees to the ground. Next movement in our bear, we're almost going to imagine each time we're reaching through with our arm to challenge our balance a little bit more. Now, the further forward you shift the weight, the harder it is. Further back you shift it, the easier it is. So you pick a level that's appropriate for you. So as I'm coming through this time, I'm almost going to reach across with my hand. So I'm in this position here. I'm reaching across, and then I'm going to try, if I can, to keep my feet in line, and then reach back across with my other hand. So reaching across, and then if I can really want to challenge my brain, I'm going to go backwards as well. So my hands are coming across each other, my feet are staying in the same place. So hands coming across, feet staying in the same place. Now if you really want to challenge yourself, try and do that as slowly as possible. So if you feel comfortable, we're going to have a 3-second, almost a 3-second movement within each step of the hand. So let me show you what that looks like. Now if that's too difficult, you go at whatever speed you want, but for now, that's what we're going to try. So we're going to start with our bum up high in the air. Again, the further we lean forward, the harder that's going to be. So bum up in the air, and then as my hand crosses over, 3, 2, 1. Then I'm going to move my foot, 3, 2, 1. So it's almost like my hands are on a tightrope. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Let's try that backwards. So I'm going to let you count in your head this time. So we're just seeing how precisely and how specifically we can move. Okay, have a rest. Now earlier in the lesson, we imagined we were almost that old person who's kind of a bit hunched over. Now I want you to imagine you've got your Superman chest on. So Superman chest at the front. I'm going to push my hips back. So this time, rather than being like this, big chest, bum back. And you'll see why we're doing that in a second. Let's just do 5 of those really quickly. So push your bum back and keep that chest nice and big. Hands behind your head. So we're going to go 5, 4, 3, almost like you're trying to jump forwards. 2, 1. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to have your feet slightly wider than your shoulders. Push your bum back with that big superhero chest. And all you're going to do is you're going to try and walk forwards, but this time you're going to move your hands and feet at the same time as each other. So if my hands are here, they're going to stay still. I'm going to tip forward and then hop my feet. Hands down, tip forward, hop my feet. Last one, hands down, tip forward and hop my feet. If I feel really confident, I'm going to go backwards as well. Again, if this is too difficult, just turn yourself round and then come backwards, but obviously facing the other way. So this time, I'm going to push hard into the floor and then hop back with my feet. When you hop back with your feet, try and shift your weight backwards as much as you can and then go into the next effort. So I'm going to have my hands in front of me. I'm going to push as hard as I can with my hands and then keeping your hands attached to the floor as best you can. Lean back as best you can. Then bring your hands in line with your feet. Push hard through the floor and hop back. So how far back can you get your bum? How far back can we balance? So we're pushing our hands away from the floor. How far back can you get your bum before you have to readjust? Okay, next thing we're going to look at is our horse walk. Now remember, we can change the difficulty of this depending on how low we are to the floor. The lower we are, the harder it's going to be. Higher up, easier. You pick whatever's appropriate for you. So, I'm going to start almost with a big step, and the lower I am to the floor, the harder it's going to be. So, as I step, I'm going to sweep the floor, and that sweeping of the floor is going to make it harder. Then bring the feet together. So, step and sweep. Again, the lower I am to the floor, the harder it is. Step and sweep. The further I sweep, or the closer I am to the floor, the harder it's going to be. So step and sweep. If that's difficult, stay upright. So step, this is easy. Here's really difficult. So you just pick the bit that is hard for you. And if you're trying this at home, let me know how you and your kids are getting on with it. Okay, so we've done our horse walk forwards and backwards. Now what we're going to try is, can we get down onto the floor and back up from a similar position? So, feet nice and wide, and all I want you to do is you're going to sit down onto one side. For the first time we do it, we're going to try using our hands. So, hands on the floor. Can we get our bum onto the floor? And the first level of this is, can we get back up? Now for this level, we're going to use our hands, but if that's feeling too easy, you can try and not use your hands. So I'm still going to stay on the same side. So I'm going to sit down as low as I can, try and keep my feet flat on the floor if I can, bum on the floor. If I feel confident, I'm going to try and push my weight forwards and then stand up. If I'm not so confident, I can just use my hands. Now I'm going to try the other way. So parents, if you're doing this as well, you can either lift your kids up, give them a little bit of assistance, but make them do most of the work. Kids, you might find that you're able to do this a lot better than your parents. So hands out, almost to counterbalance you. How low down can you get? And what you want to try and do here, whether you're using your hands or not, is when you get down to the floor, should be super quiet. So if you're crashing and banging, you might be annoying your parents for one, but also we want to try and have more control. Now if that means that you grab onto, say, furniture, providing it's okay with mum and dad, we'd rather you get down there slower and more smoother than if, for example, you just crash and bang and hit the floor. So let's try that again. So shake it off if you're struggling, hands out in front of you. You're going to step feet wider than shoulders, and then how low down can you get without feet coming off? If you need to put hands down, that's fine. Can we get down to the floor? And then if we're able to, can we rock forward? Can we bring ourselves up? So that's one of the movement challenges for today. But as always, we're going to finish on a movement challenge as well. Now, the next thing we're going to do is introduce our dinosaur walk. Now, I'll show you what the dinosaur walk looks like, and then we're going to try a movement challenge at the end. So we'll do our dinosaur walk, we'll do a few other movements to help you practice that, and then we'll finish with our movement challenge. So our dinosaur walk, again, the lower down you are, the harder this is going to be. Whereas if I'm up tall, not very difficult. So you're going to bring your heels up off the floor. So that's part one. And all you're going to do, hands out in front is optional. In my mind, a dinosaur's like that. Don't ask me why. And then all you're going to do is just walk forward, keeping your heels off the floor. Now, the higher you keep your heels off the floor, the harder it's going to be. So, for example, this is relatively easy, whereas if I come right up onto my toes, this is going to be harder. So that's what the dinosaur walk looks like. I'm going to give you a few seconds just to practice that, and then we're going to go into stuff that's going to help us with our dinosaur walk. So if you want to try it forwards, let's give that a go real quick, and then we'll try some stuff that's going to help. Again, the higher your heels are up off the ground, the harder this is going to be. So just walking forwards, and then walking backwards. I'm going to try it this way. So I'm going to come a little bit closer. So the higher up my heels are, the harder this is going to be. So just walking forwards. Okay, I'm going to relax there. Now, the next thing we're going to do, just real quick, is have our big toe on the floor. I'm going to come back here, and all I want you to do, big toe on the floor, can you push yourself back and get yourself almost into that frogger position that we've been working on. Now, if this is difficult, you can keep your hands on the floor, or you can hold on to a sofa if you've got it in front of you. Now, what I want to see you do is, can you do that without using your hands, or without using your hands to touch something? So you're almost going to imagine you're swimming, and then can you go from this position to this one? So knees down, almost like you're trying a butterfly. So big swoop of the arms, and then from this position, you're going to push your chest up. So wider feet might make that slightly easier. So swimming, big chest up, almost imagine you're filming something over your head, and then back down. We'll do one more. So swoop with the arms, imagine you're filming something overhead. How high up can you get without falling over? So that's almost part one, leading into our dinosaur walk. Next thing we're going to practice is something called a duck walk. So it looks very similar to the dinosaur walk, but it's going to help us with the movement challenge at the end. So our duck walk, if we can remember, is starting with one knee on the floor. And as we come forward, we're almost going to imagine that knee is trimming the carpet, or if we're doing this outside, trimming the grass. So coming forward, and then if we're able to, we're going to try and switch our brains on and go backwards. Obviously backwards is harder because we can't see where we're going, so a bit more coordination involved. So have we got the coordination to come backwards? If this is difficult, we can always go slightly higher up. If that's easy, we're going to go lower down. So trimming the grass or trimming the carpet as we're coming back. So let's play with that. So if forwards and backwards is too easy, then we can try having a little bit of side to side movement. Now obviously side to side movement is going to be more difficult because we have to almost twist our body in the direction we want to go. So a little bit more coordination difficulties. Obviously brain's got to switch on as well. So that's the duck walk. Again, looks very similar to the dinosaur walk, and you'll see why that's important when we get on to the movement challenge. So the movement challenge, in fact, before we get on to the movement challenge, one last thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to lesson 1 of our frog stand, just as a little bit of a stretch and to prepare us for dinosaur walk. So all I want you to do, your elbows are going to be inside your knees, and just almost as a stage 1 approach really, you're going to keep your feet on the floor and just let your elbows stretch the inside muscles of your knee. So just letting our elbows dig in, feet are still on the floor, we're using it as a stretch, so we can just shift side to side here. Now if this is feeling easy for you, then what I want you to do is you're just going to tip your head forwards and try and get your bum in the air. We're not jumping, we're just tipping. So my feet are still on the floor, but only just. So now there's more weight in my hands than there is weight in my toes. And just push back into a squat. Have a rest there, so this might feel a little bit more comfortable. Just gently rock side to side. Now what we're going to try is just pointing one of our toes behind us if we're able to. If we're not, we're just going to use that as a stretch. So as we come down here, so I'm shifting my weight forwards, and if I'm able to, I'm just going to point one or both toes behind us, depending on what level we're at. Having a foot on the floor is fine. You can use your elbows to just stretch those muscles inside. So that was our frog stand all the way from lesson 1. If this is the first time you check Calisthenics Kids out, go back and check out lesson number 1 on the frog stand. Okay, so here it is, our movement challenge of the day. What you'll need for the challenge is a shoe. Now, if you're lucky to have a head as big as mine, then this might be slightly easy, we don't know. So the movement challenge for today is simply how far can you dinosaur walk whilst balancing a shoe on your head. So make sure that we've cleared any dangerous obstacles or TV, whatever, out of the way. So here's our movement challenge of today. Make sure you tag Calisthenics Kids in your efforts. So firstly, you're going to come into a position where you can dinosaur walk from. So heels off the floor for this version of the game. You're going to pop a shoe on your head, and then all I want to see, you can adjust it slightly if you need to, is how far can you walk with the shoe on your head. So my heels aren't allowed to touch the floor. So I've only got a foot there. I'm going to give myself another go there. So I'm going to go shoe on my head. And then from there, can I walk forward? How far can I get? Heel is not allowed to touch the floor. So that is our movement challenge for lesson 29 of Calisthenics Kids. I'm going to catch you in the last lesson of Calisthenics Kids tomorrow. And for now, I will bid you farewell.